Good afternoon, YouTube, and welcome back once again to Fat Cat Collections. I was going through my videos today. I'm surprised I bought this watch about a month or 2 months ago, and I thought I reviewed it. So sometimes when it comes to watches, I probably have done that on several watches now, where I forget to do the video on it. Because, well, you guys know I love collecting watches, so I don't always buy something just to throw it on the channel. I mainly buy things that I really want, and then as a bonus, I share it on the channel. Unless it's something that, a company collaborates with me on, then I don't, it's not like a top priority. So I must have forgot. So, I mean, this is a great watch. I've been eyeballing this for a while, and I finally picked it up. This is another Pagani design. So, I didn't have any watches in gold that were smaller. I have a ton of watches in gold. And guys, when I say gold, for the YouTube knuckleheads out there, common sense should tell you that when I refer to a watch as gold, it's not real gold. There are not many watches on the market that are real gold, unless without having to jump into something like a Rolex or many of the other luxury brands out there. Remember, when I'm reviewing a watch that costs anywhere from $99 to $300 roughly, that's not real gold, guys. I mean, really, common sense should tell anybody that. But for anybody who, might just be completely clueless when it comes to, and I don't mean that as an insult to watch collecting. I'm not an expert by any means. When I refer to watches gold, these are gold-plated watches. Now, other knuckleheads have commented that, oh, well, this is not actually even gold-plated. There's no gold in this. When you get a gold-plated watch, they are using 14 karat gold, unless you're getting something that is done in a like more of a hydroplated kind of fashion, like Invicta does a lot of those. Or there are different techniques nowadays where there's a type of gold finish, but you don't really find those on watches. You usually find those on things that aren't really subjected to the abuse. So if you had a painted surface on a watch, it just wouldn't last. You'd know that pretty quickly. The thing about metal platings is that there's an element of hardness to them, and that's why you can wear something like this and keep scratching it, and the gold finish will scratch. You won't wear through the finish. Now, eventually, in time, it is possible to wear through any finish for that matter, but I have gold-plated watches that I've had for 20+ years, and it's taken a really long time. And when I talk some of the watches that I have that are really old, I mean watches that there is no quality control on them. They're really, as no-name brands they possibly can get. And even the gold is still fine on areas that aren't subjected to constant wear. What I mean by that is sometimes if you get a gold plating that's inferior on the inside of the band, again, depending on the acidity of your skin, everybody's skin's a little different. I worked with a coworker one time that his skin, he would actually wear finishes off on the inside of the watch way quicker than I ever would. Me, I've never worn anything off unless it's that one that I have that's like 20 years old, and it's, like I said, it's off-brand. But on the inside is where you're going to wear that. Very rarely have I ever seen a watch that wears genuine gold plating or a plating of some sort on the clasp. So rest assured, if you do get a gold-plated watch, as long as you buy it from a reputable manufacturer like these, and I don't mean expensive manufacturer, you're going to be fine. They're going to stand the test of time. I'm not saying 20 years is going to go by and you might have some wear, of course, but for 80 bucks, I mean, who cares, right? So let's check it out. So I wanted something in my collection that was a smaller watch. Believe it or not, guys, as much as I love the huge Invicta watches and the Aragons, I kind of go through waves where I want to add different watches to my collection. And a lot of times when I'm just lounging around watching TV or watching a movie, hanging out at home, working around the garage, outside, whatever, I generally don't wear my big Invictas. The Invictas are kind of like my big casino watches, going out, being flashy, where you want to get, you want to get noticed is why you wear, some of the Invicta watches. I mean, and that shouldn't be your only reason, but they are going to get noticed. People are going to say, hey, man, it's a crazy watch. It's a flashy watch, It's like wearing anything that's got bling to it. It's an attention getter, right? And ultimately, when I say that, everybody likes attention. Even a guy who wears a small little Rolex watch likes people to notice the watch and ask about it. And the thing is, it's again, common sense. People are going to notice things that are a lot more flashier and bigger. They're just going to draw your eye in more naturally. So again, always wear what you like, wear what makes you happy, wear it for yourself. But again, I do like to wear smaller watches too. A lot of guys don't really know that when they watch my channel. So I have a ton of different watches in different sizes, and I'll say lately, if you look at my search history, not all my search history, when it comes to watches, you'll see a lot of smaller watches, that I'm checking out. A lot of the Paganis, a lot of the homage watches. And so I have a couple. I have this watch here, which is a homage to a Submariner. You know, and again, you know, I always want to mention this. When I knock on Rolex, I don't mean to knock on the brand as if it's like some crummy brand. I'm just thinking I knock on the brand because it's a ripoff. To me, spending thousands of dollars on a watch that you can get for $100, with, again, some differences, yes, absolutely, they're not noticeable enough for me to warrant spending that kind of money. Now, if you were to get a solid gold Rolex, that's a different story. You're going to, you know, that's, I will say, is somewhat appealing to me because you have this big, giant chunk of gold on your wrist, but you're looking at $30,000 plus, and honestly, I'd have to be really well off to waste that much money on a watch. There are so many other things I'd rather have and do with that money, right? So, got a great deal on a Pagani here. $80, so I got this watch for shipped. I got this one from, I believe, oh, kind of drawing a blank. Sometimes I'll pick them up on Amazon, other times AliExpress. I'll have to go back and look at where I picked this up. I'll put a link in the description to where you can get this as well. Now, I went to the Pagani website, and right now they're stating this watch is out of stock because they can't get Seiko NH35 movements. And that's what kind of draws me into the Pagani watches. Again, it's not something just Pagani does. NH35 is one of the most used movements in homage watches, in regular, you know, well-known brand watches. It's just known as, and I hate using the watch community's catchphrases, the workhorse. Honestly, guys, any of these movements are good. I mean, they all work, right? I've never had any of them fail. So you get a Miyota, a Seiko, a Rolex, whatever the brand is, ETA, you know, Valjoux, they're all good. You know, of course, on paper, there's always got to be these differences, and one might tell a little better time than another, might hold time better, but ultimately, I don't care about that. I mean, it's something that I'm going to wear this for 2 days, put it in my safe, and then I'm going to have to come back to it and set the time anyway. So it's really pointless for me. If you are looking for the most accurate watch in the world, you don't buy an automatic. And if you do want an automatic and you do want an accurate watch, there's a lot of other options that you're going to pay a lot more for than $80. So let's talk a little bit more about this watch. As far as size, you got 13 millimeters in case thickness. And look at the website, 40 millimeters in case diameter, so a pretty small watch for a fat cat, right? You know, I generally like to stick within the 42 minimum, but you know, 40s, you know, it's your standard Rolex Submariner size, you know, and that's what they're trying to duplicate here is the Submariner. Now, Invicta, everybody and their brother makes one of these. Invicta made one I almost bought over this, but I had so many Invictas, I just wanted to add another Pagani to my collection. And to be flat out honest with you, I really like the Pagani logo. Not to say I don't like the Invicta, but one thing I liked about this watch over the Invicta was the fact that the numbers on the dial, and this is, to the best of my knowledge, is it a ceramic bezel? I'm not sure. They don't list that. Thought it was, but maybe it's not. But still a great, nice, deep black bezel. It doesn't, to me, it doesn't look like an aluminum insert. It just has a richer look to it. But I like the fact that on the, what do they do it on the 10? The 10 and yeah, it looks like this is gonna sound kind of weird, but on some of the I'm gonna call these, I know they're not indices, I don't know what you call them, but the markings and numbers on the bezel, looks like on the 10, is it the 22? No, it looks like the 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50 are actually engraved and recessed, whereas on the Invicta, they're just printed, if I'm using the right word for that. So I like just that little extra depth you get. It's very apparent by the pictures when you look at the Pagani website, or if you find these on, you know, eBay or whatever. I just added something to the watch which made me like it more than the Invicta. Also, I think that the indices on these were a little bit different than the Invicta. Anyway, long story short, I chose the Pagani. Price points were pretty similar. Another thing I really like about the Pagani is when they make a homage watch like this, they duplicate the style of the Rolex clasp. And I actually have a Rolex Submariner right here. And again, these are made, you know, one-to-one. They're amazing quality watches. And I have this out here because I want to make kind of a little bit of a point here. I'll tell you that, again, you don't have to spend a lot of money to get a fantastic watch. And I have these out because I just wanted to compare just kind of the differences in the price point. And what I think a lot of times is, and I want to be careful what I say here because I don't want to put out information that's not true, But to me, when I feel these two watches and the quality between them, they're really identical in quality. The only thing I would say that would be different with these is the Pagani has an exhibition window on the back that may or may not be important to you. To me, I never really care. If it's there, it's there. And on the Rolex, it just has a plain old back, which is pretty standard. But I think this particular watch uses maybe a seagull or an off-brand automatic movement, whereas in the Pagani you're getting that Seiko H35. If that is important to you to have that brand recognition and I guess the trust that you're going to have with a well-established movement that everybody knows about, I'd go with the Pagani. You're going to get this one here for about $52, which is pretty incredible. I mean, it's a gorgeous looking watch, and it always blows me away. You know, when you look at, you know, back in the day, back in the 80s, when you saw watches like this in Chinatown and on, you know, Canal Street, you know, there was a real difference with this quality. I mean, it's just, you know, you picked up a watch, you're like, ah, that's a cheap, crummy watch. But nowadays, it's incredible what $50 gets you. So I just wanted to show you guys that. As far as the size, this is 1-to-1. You can see it's identical, that 40mm case. You know, it's a little bit, to me, again, it's a little bit small, but I absolutely love the watch. Lume on this sucks. It's not going to be great, but you do get lume. The weight on this is 152 grams. Stainless steel, I'm sure it is 316. It's a synthetic sapphire glass. And that's really about it. You do have a day of the month indicator, which is great on the Paganis as well. It's a nice, large, magnifying glass, so to speak. It really enhances the size of the date. You know, it's awesome. And, you know, and I love the Pagani too. Their logo, I just like everything about them. The font, the logo. I just think it's a very well-branded watch. You know, there's so many different names out there. I mean, we see many on the channel. You know, we got Benyar, Bersiger, L'Oreal. But I don't know, something about the Pagani design. It's just a nice sounding name. I don't know. Maybe I'm just overthinking it, but I like it. You know, and a lot of times when I'm looking for, when you're looking for, I guess, a watch that's, I don't want to say homage, because that's what these are, right? Or homage watches, right? But, you know, when you're looking at an inexpensive, affordable watch, right? That's going to be in the $50 price range, $50 to $80. You know, a lot of times when you're looking at the different watches out there, it's hard to get this kind of quality in that price point without going with a watch that's a homage watch, right? Generally, if you start looking at watches in this price range, you're going with their own regular branded watches like Vincero. Nothing against Vincero. I like all these watches. You know, brands like Movement, brands like, you know, ones you're gonna find like in your Macy's or those big box stores. You know, it's just, I do feel like there's a little bit of and I don't mean with like Filippo Loretti or Vincero. It depends on what you're looking at. But I'll find if you go into like a Macy's and you pick up a Kenneth Cole watch, usually they're over $100. And when you compare the quality, I'm not saying one's bad, one's worse than the other, but when you pick up a watch like a Pagani design, I just feel like there's a noticeable difference, and maybe that's because it has the automatic movement in there. Maybe that adds a little bit of weight to it. But I just feel like it's a very nice quality watch for what you're getting. I feel like it kind of goes a step above your kind of entry-level designer-style watches, right? That we see, you know, in all the big box stores. But when you want to get that kind of quality, you're jumping into brands that really just make homage watches, right? That's what Pagani does. I don't believe Pagani has any of their, you know, any original designs. So you're kind of stuck with going with something like this, or here's, you know, my other Pagani on my wrist, the Aqua Racer Homage. A little bit larger, beautiful watch. I mean, $56. This is incredible. I got my dad one. I mean, automatic movement, not a Seiko automatic. I believe it's a Seagull, but you know, and I think you're going to see more Seagulls in different movements right now, because I guess there's kind of a shortage on the Seikos from what they have posted on their website. So you can't get this right now with a Seiko H35. The good news is that's directly off the Pagani website, which in all honesty, I wouldn't order this from the Pagani website anyway, and I do find it kind of confusing that companies like Pagani offer this watch for $109 on their website when you could get this watch all day long for about $80, $85 on places like AliExpress, DHgate. Now, again, you can find them more, too. So I just think, though, for a company to really want to be competitive and try to sell direct to their customer, I mean, you're cutting out the middleman. I would think they'd have the best price on their website, but they don't. And maybe it just depends on the model. But I looked at some of their other, different models on their website, and I'm just seeing a lot of, a lot of pricing that I know you can get a lot cheaper from AliExpress. And in all honesty, I don't think. And again, I'm giving my opinion here. I don't think that if you get it from their website, you're going to get it any quicker. I think it's probably still coming from China and still dealing with the same shipping, speed that you're going to get from ordering just through AliExpress or through eBay if you go with a seller that's overseas. So, I think sometimes you can find these on Amazon and get them a lot quicker. And a lot of times that's kind of nice because with Amazon, if it is something stocked by Amazon, or they have clearly listed the return policy. If you get it, you don't like it, you can send it back. Whereas you're probably not going to send a watch back to China. It's just too expensive on shipping because you have to, in order to get your money back, you have to prove that you sent it there, and it has to be trackable. And I don't know if you've ever tried to price trackable shipping from the United States overseas. It's extremely expensive. So just kind of buy where you feel comfortable. I know that when I buy a watch like this, I know I'm going to like it. I know I'm not going to have to send it back. And the only risk is really, did I get a bad one? And I haven't had any issues like that at all. So let's take a little bit more of a look at this watch. I just absolutely love the gold and black. I have been eyeballing the last couple nights another, whether it be a Pagani or one of the other brands, Invicta, whoever. I do like the Jubilee bracelet on a gold watch. And I'll tell you, you can get. I have kind of went back and forth. I've been wanting to get like the Batman kind of look on Jubilee bracelet. Again, when I say that, I don't want people to come out and be like, oh, well, do you really want a Rolex? I would never spend the money on a Rolex. If I want to buy a Rolex, if you could even get one, that's the thing. If you want to be, if you could buy one tomorrow, right, and you're like, here you go, I wouldn't want to spend that much money. For me to drop $20,000, $10,000, $1,000 on a watch, I'd rather buy another gun, or it doesn't bring me enough joy to spend a lot of money on a watch, and really on anything for that matter. I'm pretty frugal when it comes to what I buy. I get a lot of enjoyment out of things that are affordable. So the argument is never going to be about can you afford it. Again, I can afford it. If I want to buy a Rolex, the Rolex is not some unobtainable, insane deal. We've all looked at the knuckleheads on YouTube who they'll throw in their credit card. They'll exhaust their savings account in order to buy one. Right? That to me, that doesn't make me feel comfortable. I don't want one. Not when you can get something like this for $99. Now, if you absolutely want to play the game where you pretend like you have an extremely expensive watch, you can go ahead and get something like this for $50. And, nobody's going to, I don't care what anybody says, if you're wearing something like this on your wrist, half the time, even if you're wearing the Pagani on your wrist and somebody sees this, they're going to say, oh, nice Rolex. I was wearing one the other day, I mentioned a year ago, whatever it was, with my rainbow encrusted bezel, and it clearly said Burst Cigar. She's like, ooh, is that a Rolex? Like, people, unless they really get in there and examine, and really, who's going to do that? Who's that rude to want to really, like, make sure you're wearing, is it a Rolex? Like, that's nosy, you know what I mean? But, again, to each their own. You can find many, many watches like this on AliExpress and DHgate for the $50 price range, which will give you exceptional quality, and really there's nobody who's going to be able to tell the difference wearing this on your wrist while you're moving around, talking, having a conversation. Now, if you do get the guy who wants to pull out his jeweler's loop and is extremely, well-versed in Rolex watches, but again, I don't really... This watch I picked up because I wanted to see what you get for your money with modern machining and modern copies like this. I'd much rather, again, I went back and forth being like, yeah, man, $50 I could pick up the Batman, but I just don't want to have that conversation. I'm just not that kind of person. I like to be authentic, and I don't really want to wear something that isn't what it is. You know what I mean? I don't mind the homage watches. I do like the style of this. And that's why I have a few in my collection. And companies, a lot of companies make watches like this. So, I've got sent a lot of watches over the years. But, ultimately, it's another watch. And so, no matter who makes the watch, it's exciting for me to have a new one in my collection, no matter who makes it. But I know that was a really long story for to do watch review, but you guys gotta have the whole story. So I love the watch. It's incredible. Again, you're getting really, in my opinion, you know, a one-to-one copy of what you're going to get with a, and I believe with the Submariner. I do believe this does have the dive extension as well. So it works differently than your, you know, your actual Rolex Submariners, but it's got it. I never use it, but it's got it in there, and I think this other one has it as well. It does. It's almost like, you know, and I didn't want to say this, but it's almost like these two watches, you know, with the exception of just a few things on it, like I'd say on the Pagani, the tolerances are a little tighter around the lugs, but that could just be, yeah, that could just be this particular watch. I didn't want to say this, but it's almost like these are made in the same factory, and one's going to the, you know, this particular seller, and one's going to Pagani, right? So I don't know. You know, I mean, you know, like I said, guys, always buy what makes you happy. I mean, ultimately, you're the one who has to wear it. I like having both in my collection. I mean, you know, I don't know. I think the price point's pretty attractive on the other one, but for 80 bucks, you really can't go wrong with this Pagani design. So that's really about it, folks. I mean, screw down crown. You know, I mean, if you're a now we get to seeing it on the wrist. If you're a guy who really is all about specs, and, you know, I don't know. I don't get too involved with worrying about sapphire. My biggest concern is, you know, does it have an automatic movement? Because I prefer automatic watches. Is it a Seiko? That's a plus. Seagull's still good too. Most of these automatic movements, as long as they have a brand name associated with it, are pretty good. But, you know, I know that I trust the Seiko Edge 35, of course. So if it has that, that's a plus, of course. What else? 316 stainless steel, that's a plus. You know, it's a great quality watch, and you really can't go wrong with what you're getting. You know, I've seen a few guys, I think Just One More Watch, reviewed this watch, and I just had to, after seeing his review of it, I was like, yep, that's what I'm going to get, the Pagani. Could have got the Invicta, you know, I mean, pretty close in price. They do have a pretty nice looking Invicta that's more the traditional Captain Willard style case, which is got the Jubilee bracelet. I have that in the orange and blue. They do make it in gold. It is really attractive. I kind of wish, I don't know, I will say it's harder to find the gold Jubilee bracelet models in other brands besides Invicta. It's really the only one that I've seen that makes a homage watch with the Jubilee bracelet. I mean, I'm sure there's others out there, but again, I can't think of it off the top of my head. But pretty awesome. Let me stand up so you guys can just get another shot. You know, and like I said, I know that we get, you know, desensitized with the size of these watches, that, you know, us Invicta and Aragon lovers. I've even found that Aragon, you know, they're cutting their sizes back. And some people have said, oh, big watches are out of style. You know, ultimately, you shouldn't be wearing things based on what's in style. We all like a good compliment, of course, but, you know, wear what makes you happy. You know, for me, I don't really care if big watches are out of style. I don't really care if small watches are out of style. I'm going to wear, ultimately, what I feel like wearing, what's going to make me happy. And, you know, like I said, I enjoy large watches, small watches. When I'm at home sitting around like this, I'm not going to wear a giant Sea Hunter. You know, it's just time and place for everything. And I think that having a nice variety in your collection is what I enjoy. And, you know, if you are the kind of guy who wants to have one watch and that's going to be your grail watch, and that's fine too. But I prefer to, you know, have just a nice variety. I think that when you're buying affordable watches, you can afford to do that, you know. So pretty cool. I love it. I think you guys will like it too. Let me know if you guys have any questions whatsoever. Pagani Design, again, fantastic brand. It's just another example of a brand who's just producing an amazing quality watch. Again, if you compare these watches side by side with a really high-end luxury name, you know, of course, again, there are going to be those differences under macro lens. A real expert might be able to pinpoint out this real difference. You might pull the clasp, but maybe the clasp is finished a little bit nicer on the inside edge. You know, but these are all things that are so, remember, you're wearing this on your wrist. This isn't under a microscope in a museum with people to critique it. You're wearing this on your wrist, you're moving around, and, you know, I don't care how bad a watch is finished. When you're here doing this, talking, you can't see any of those differences. So what's the point in having them, right? So anyway, buy what you like, buy what makes you happy. If you found this video helpful, do subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment. Let me know if I can help you guys in any way. Links are in the description. Have a great weekend, and take care, folks.